Some of your best ideas are always 10 minutes late. The meeting ends, you walk out, and right about halfway down the stairs, the perfect answer finally lands in your head. But the room is empty now, and there is nobody left to tell. A French writer named Diderot described this 250 years ago. He froze during an argument at a dinner party and only found his reply on the way down the stairs. The experience later became known as l'esprit de l'escalier, or staircase wit. Most people take that as proof that they're slow, but that meeting never got the best thinking from anyone in it. That room only managed to collect everyone's rough, hurried first draft. But that thought on the stairs, your second one is the good one, and almost nobody ever hears it. To understand why this keeps happening, we have to look at what a meeting actually asks your brain to do. If you are in a room with 6 people for an hour, your fair share of the talking time is 10 minutes. That means for 50 minutes, your brain is forced to listen to other people talk. Now, think about the last time someone told you a phone number. You can usually hold those digits in your head just fine, right? Right up until someone else walks by and says a random sentence to you, and then the number is completely gone. That little mental whiteboard is your working memory. And in a meeting, you are asking that small space to hold onto your thought for up to 50 minutes while 5 other people are actively throwing words at you. And you might look at the people who answer in seconds and wonder why they can do it. Some of them genuinely can. A few people are exceptionally quick on their feet, but many are caring less than you are. They came in with one point and are waiting for a gap to say it, rather than trying to follow every new idea in the room. That's a much smaller job than the one you were doing. Listening to new information and holding your own unfinished thought both need that same small space, and those two jobs push each other out. By the time it's your turn to speak, your idea has probably lost its shape or doesn't fit the conversation anymore. This is called production blocking, and that's before anything else goes wrong. If your manager is in the room, part of your attention is on how you're coming across. If you're doing all of this in a second language, that takes another piece. So yes, being able to speak quickly in a meeting is a real skill. The meeting tests your speed of retrieval. People who have it keep a room moving. But the quality of the thinking underneath, that's a completely different metric. And the meeting format may never get far enough to see it. Which brings up a fair question. Is that just you, or does the room do it to everybody? Somebody tested it in about the most direct way you could. They put one group of people in a room to generate as many good ideas as possible to solve a problem, the way many companies do. Then they took the same number of people, put them in separate rooms to think alone, and pooled whatever they wrote afterward. Same problem, same number of people. The only real difference was whether you had to wait your turn. Now, guess which group did better? You probably already know the answer. The people working apart won. More ideas, and by several measures, better ones almost every single time. The bigger the group got, the worse the room did. When people went looking for the reason, it turned out to be the exact thing you were doing in that meeting, waiting and rehearsing. We've known this for 40 years, so think about every company you've ever worked for. How many of them changed anything about how they run a meeting? Probably very few. Sit with that for a second. You may have walked out of meetings every single week believing you had nothing to offer. But the format itself may have been stripping away your ability to contribute. Now, I'm not saying meetings are useless. They're great for aligning a team, they're good for making a final decision, they're necessary for handling disagreements in real time. Getting ideas out of people though, that's probably not on that list. But that room didn't only block your thought. It's also the reason your best idea showed up 10 minutes later. Think about what changes the moment you step out the door. The cue to speak is gone. Nobody's watching your face. That crowded little space in your working memory is suddenly empty. But the pieces from the meeting are all still there. And now they finally have room to connect. You're beginning to experience what psychologists call the incubation effect. You've probably noticed this yourself. Some of your sharpest thinking arrives while you're walking down the stairs, or washing the dishes, or folding laundry. But there's a catch here. This only works if you actually let your mind stay empty. If you walk out of the meeting and immediately check Slack, or read a few emails, or scroll on your phone for 10 minutes, you kill the incubation. You just replace the noise of the room with the noise of the screen. The stairs do the opposite. They leave that space open so the answer can surface. And that moment of clarity on the stairs is your second draft. Nobody sends out the first draft of anything that matters, but a meeting is happy to collect everybody's first draft and then go make decisions that do matter. So how do you get that second draft back into the work before the decision gets made without it? The solution is very practical. Get it out of your head, before the meeting, during the meeting, and after the meeting. Your working memory is the exact space the meeting keeps taking up. Anything you try to leave in there has to compete with the room. So, before the meeting, find out what's actually being decided and ask for the material when you can. Read the main question and write 2 lines of your first reaction. Don't overthink it. You're just getting that first reaction out of your head and onto the page. That gives your mind room to take it one step further. So you walk into the meeting with your second draft already forming. And if you have any say in how the meeting runs, you could try opening it with 2 minutes of silent writing. This is called brain writing. Put the question in front of everyone and let them write down their thoughts before anyone speaks. You do this because you'd rather have everyone's best version than everyone's fastest one. Then, during the meeting, protect your mental workspace. The second an idea shows up, get it out of your head. Write the smallest fragment that can lead you back to it later. In the example we used earlier, that fragment might have been something like different finish lines. That's enough to let you keep listening without losing your way back to the idea. Now, if someone calls on you and you aren't ready, try saying something like, "A couple of things come to mind, but I want to check one of them before I answer. Can I come back to you this afternoon?" That tells them you already have something in mind and when to expect your answer, so it doesn't sound like you're trying to avoid the question. Of course, some decisions really do have to be made inside the room. And if the room is rushing toward a decision that feels wrong but you can't quite explain why, just slow things down. Turn the unfinished thought into a question. Something like, "Before we lock this in, can we check that we all mean the same thing by done?" Your question may give the room one useful thing to check without accusing anyone. Which brings us to the last part. What do you do after the meeting? Because that step may be worth more than the first 2 put together. Before we get to the message though, let's lower the pressure. You don't need to follow every meeting with another page of analysis. Maybe only 1 in 5 gives you something worth bringing back. The useful thoughts usually do one of 3 things. They change a decision, reveal a risk, or give the team a practical next step. If the thought does none of those, just let it go. But when a thought does matter, get it out of your head and into somebody else's. The message only needs to do 3 things. Say what you noticed, explain why it matters, and suggest the easiest thing to check next. For example, "Hey, I've been thinking about our conversation on the timeline. I realize we might be using the word done differently across the teams. Are we defining it as handed off or fully approved? I just want to make sure we're planning around the same finish line." Notice how low the barrier is. You aren't restarting the whole discussion. In this case, you're asking the team to define one word instead of deciding who was at fault. In another case, it might be a practical suggestion that came later, or a risk you want on the record. Either way, the structure stays the same. Your second draft now has a chance to shape what happens next. You might be thinking, well, it's just one message. Can it really change anything? More than you'd guess. People judge what you're capable of by what they can remember seeing you do. But live meetings have an unfair advantage. Anything you say in the room has witnesses, while some of your best thinking arrives later, on a staircase, with no one there to see it. If you never carry it back, people will be working with an incomplete record of what you can contribute. But written words leave a record people can return to. They make your thinking visible. 10 thoughtful, well-timed messages over the course of a year will probably do more for your reputation than 100 fast, forgettable comments in meetings, because people can point to them. That second draft is worth protecting. And right now, it's getting left on a staircase every week. I do want to be honest with you. There are some companies where this simply won't work. They only reward the fastest, loudest voices in the room, and no thoughtful follow-up message can fix that. When that's the case, the problem belongs to them, and you don't have to carry it. But in most situations, the goal is never to make yourself faster. That rarely works, and trying to force it usually costs you the deeper thinking you're actually good at. You get to stay the kind of thinker you are. You just need a route that lets your thinking return to the work. Once your name is attached to enough useful insights, how people read your silence will change. To help you put this into practice, I've collected the meeting guidelines and a few follow-up message templates into a free PDF. You can download it from the link in the description. And if meetings aren't the only part of work that's draining your energy, watch my video on sensory overload at work next. It explains what else you may be processing in the room. You can click on it right here. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.